SpotlightMediaStudios.com. Welcome to Education Unfiltered. Here is Mary Stucco.
Hello, this is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered, where we talk everything higher ed. And that looks like a lot of different things to different people. Today, I am very fortunate to be joined by the new president of Lansing Community College, Dr. Steve Robinson. He got to start in community college, and he started as an LCC teaching intern, which I don't think they do those anymore.
I'm not sure. If they do, we'll have to treat him really nice.
Yes, for sure. He's got 3 degrees with deep roots in the Greater Lansing area, and he's excited to reconnect with the region as leader of one of the Lansing's most wonderful schools, Lansing Community College. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's great to be here.
It is wonderful to have you here. So tell me, it is difficult to be a leader of a community college and to start fresh with your own plans, but you're doing it during a pandemic. So how are you managing that?
Well, thanks for asking. Everybody's having to manage through the pandemic. So I think everybody's job is challenged during this time. And I was, previously president of a community college, had to be, operating in this environment before I came. But you're right. It's hard to be new during social distancing and all the, mitigation efforts we're making. And I'm sure it's probably hard for the campus and the community to onboard a new leader and not be able to interact with that person. That's why I'm really happy to be here with you. And one thing I've done is try to leverage social media. We are connected in a lot of ways that aren't face-to-face these days. So I'm very active on Twitter. I wasn't active on Instagram, but I created an Instagram channel to kind of catalog my return to the Lansing area, and I'm taking pictures of just normal stuff that I do, getting back into the community. So, leveraging social is one way to do it, and then great conversations like this. So I appreciate being here.
You are welcome. So what is your Twitter handle for those that want to connect with you?
The Twitter handle is @LCC President. And I have to tell a quick, funny story about that. So I've been active in Twitter since I've been a college president. And my previous Twitter handle was one character off because I was at another community college. And the Twitter handle LCC President was taken by somebody who was president of a country club, and he hadn't used it forever. And so I reached out to him and I asked if we could do a little swap because I really wanted to be LCC President because I'm really proud of our initials.
Yeah.
And so we were able to work that out, and it was really fun. So I'm at LCC President both on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, very good. Did it happen to be the Lansing Country Club, or was it a different country club?
It was the Lakewood Country Club in Denver, Colorado, and the fellow wasn't president anymore, and he hadn't used the account very much, and I reached out to him, and because it's kind of a pain in the neck to transfer, I said, I will make a contribution to a charity of your choice, and he said, well, where are you going? And I said, Lansing, Michigan. He said, well, make a contribution to Special Olympics in Lansing, Michigan. So that's what I did.
Nice. Yeah. That kind of worked out well. That's a good story.
It was fun.
Awesome. So want to talk about Lansing Community College and the role of community colleges in America, especially with education, especially during COVID. What are you seeing changing now, other than some of the obvious, and where do you think it's going to go in the future?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned change because that's our vision statement at LCC. It's meeting the needs of a changing community. And our community is changing rapidly, and a lot of that change isn't good right now because of the economic impact of everything we need to do to mitigate the virus. So community college can do a number of things for a community as we move through economic disruption. And in the brief history of community colleges in this country, community colleges have stood up and helped communities get through economic downturns. We did it in the Great Recession, and we're going to have to do it again when we emerge from coronavirus. So job one is to keep our students, faculty, and staff safe through the pandemic so that we're here to help the region recover when we get to the other end of this thing. And we're going to need to do that through workforce development, economic development, and affordable pathways to bachelor's degrees. And of course, that's been our wheelhouse since 1957. So I'm confident we'll be there, but we need to make sure that we are prepared when the region needs us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And LCC is such a great place to start. And I work in the business program, and we also do a lot of 3+1s with partners where they can actually take 3 years at LCC and 1 year at a 4-year. And that makes it even more affordable. And when people learn about that, I think they get more excited about, oh, great, I can really get a 4-year degree without going into tremendous debt.
Right, exactly. And that's something we've been doing for a long time. And you mentioned 3+1. I have other great articulation agreements like with Michigan State, with Envision Green. A big chunk of our job is baccalaureate transfer. And while we're great at credentials that get folks family-sustaining wages right out of our degrees, so much of what we do is prepare for meaningful transfer with momentum. We were just talking about that at a team meeting today, trying to make sure that we mitigate the credit loss that sometimes happens with transfer students so that all their credits transfer and get them on the path to the degree that they're looking to get.
Absolutely. It's so important. And you got great advisors at LCC to help people get there. And I think the key is a student needs to make sure they're being proactive by having those conversations and don't try to do it on their own, that there's a lot of resources for help.
Exactly. And, it is a two-way street. I mean, we're there to help, but students, and if there are students listening, make sure that you're keeping current with your advisor, with the folks who are giving you great advice going through our programs, because things change, and it's important to stay current and make sure that you're progressing toward the goal.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned you went to Michigan State.
I did.
I'm a Michigan State grad too.
Well, there you go. Go green.
Go green, go white. So we're hearing a lot about sports.
Yes, we are.
And obviously right now they're going back and forth and what to do with the fall season. What is LCC doing with sports? Because obviously LCC has some strong sports programs. Where do you see things going? Well,
we do have great sports programs. Had a meeting with our AD and the Dean of Student Affairs yesterday, and we're proactively planning for the spring. But here's a little update. So we did cancel all sports for fall at the beginning of the pandemic. And that was hard because we have great teams. We've got teams that were poised to place and win national championships. That was true at my previous college. My previous college, we were the 2-time national volleyball champs, and I had to make the hard decision to cancel the volleyball season. It's really an unprecedented time, and student-athlete safety comes first. But we have great teams working on this, and we are actively scenario planning for what happens in the spring. So we actually just set some go, no-go dates for the spring sports because those decisions will have to be made before the spring gets here. We have to be recruiting, we have to be practicing. And again, if we're going to do it safely, we have to plan ahead. So we have the good thing about NJCAA is the volleyball play has been pushed into the spring. So we're prepared to field a volleyball team if it's safe to do so in the spring. And then the sports, the indoor sports like basketball and also baseball and softball, we're actively monitoring. And the great thing is our folks at LCC are regional leaders in this. They're plugged into the commissions and the committees that are studying how to safely resume athletics. We do know we'll be doing it without spectators, and that's tough because we got a great location at Gannon for folks coming to see our athletes play, and of course those athletes feed off of that energy in the crowd. But the pros are doing it now. We're going to have to do it. They're going to have to play without spectators if we're able to safely go forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're starting we've already discussed it, during a difficult time. And I'm sure when you come into a role like this, you're thinking about what your legacy will be. What are you wanting to do? Can you share with me? Or do you think it's going to change too much in the next 5 years, 10 years?
No, it's a fair question. I will say I haven't thought much about legacy. This is day 2 of week 4.
So in your first 30 days, what have you decided?
So my legacy so far is I'm doing a lot of listening. But that's really on brand for me. I like working at a community college because I'm a learner. I love to learn things. I love talking to faculty. I love talking to our great staff who know a lot of things. And, unlike a lot of my friends who work in other industries, we just have a great diversity of thought leadership within a comprehensive community college. And so I spend a lot of time listening and will continue to do that for years and years. So in terms of a legacy, though, I have thought that, when you come into a presidency, there usually is a theme that emerges. I spent a lot of time with Dr. Knight, and he did a lot of things outside of facilities, but one of his lasting legacies is our transformation of this great downtown campus. I mean, I just walked from downtown to our studio here, and it was just such a pleasurable experience to walk by the public art and all the great buildings and facilities. So that's certainly a legacy for those 12 years of that president. I would like to think that going forward, one of the hallmarks of my presidency would be working on our culture, our academic culture, our service culture, because I'm a community college person. It's really the only thing I've done as an adult is work in a community college. I'm really proud of what we do. And so I would love to see the kinds of development that happen to our facilities and our structures happen to our culture, and maybe even take us up a few rungs on the ladder of national recognition. We're already thought of as a leader, but I think we can do even more.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And I agree. Dr. Knight did a great job on the outside. Because I shared with you back when I was going to Michigan State, I took some classes here at LCC.
Right.
And it was a very different looking area. It looked like kind of like a rundown old high school. The buildings there's really nothing special to look at. So, and I had always stayed in the Lansing area. So it was really exciting to watch it turn into something very beautiful and place that it's very nice. My office is in Gannon when I get to go to my office, and just the space that's created for students to hang out in. And I can't wait to bring students back onto campus so they can experience that.
I can't either, but I want to echo what you said. I was an intern at LCC in the early 90s. And, it was a great campus with a lot of great facilities, but it was almost like got a central casting for what you'd think a community college was. But if we take arts and sciences as kind of a case study, that's where I taught. Building was built in 1968. It's a classic example of concrete brutalism, right? It looks like an institutional building. And Dr. Knight didn't do this alone. We spent a lot of time talking about this, but that building is probably one of the best instructional college buildings, not community college building, college building anywhere. It's got all kinds of ambient learning in it. The learning spaces for students are fantastic. And so it's been transformed, even though it still has that DNA of being a 1968, late 60s, early 70s classic institutional building. Now it's got personality and flair. And I would take that downtown campus and put it up against any college campus anywhere.
Yeah. No, I think it helps our students on multiple levels.
I do too.
You discussed a little bit about social media and podcasting.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go into that a little bit more.
Sure.
Because obviously that's kind of where we're going to be for a while.
I agree.
And you're seeing all sorts of podcasts popping up now because this is the way people can communicate the easiest. What are your thoughts on it? I know you sound like you do a lot of this on your own. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah. When you think about the last sort of 5 months, most of the way, or a good chunk of the way we've interacted with the world is through our screens and our earpods. And you and I are wearing headphones. We're actually in the same room, but we could be doing this kind of thing remotely. And so we have the technology to connect and share ideas in this way, and we're going to need to in order to stay safe while the virus is not under control. So I think that's going to be an important strategy, not just for doing our work, but also for learning and instruction. Good thing is LCC is a leader in this area. We've got a lot of great technology, a lot of smart faculty who know how to leverage technology and innovation in learning. Personally, audio production is a hobby of mine. The microphone I'm speaking into is the same one I have in my home studio. It's a great mic. And I did college radio at Michigan State. So I had a Sunday morning radio show on WDBM. And in my career as a college president, I've had a couple of podcasts, including a national podcast on the perception and image of community colleges. And even before the pandemic, the podcast was a great format for that because I talked to people in 15 different states from 45 different colleges, and could not have done that if we were going to do it face to face. So all those interviews were remote, and the dialogue was as rich as the one we're having now. So I think when we're at a distance and staying safe, we can leverage some of these technologies, particularly in social media with audio and video, to connect and continue to do our work.
I agree. So tell me, what message would you have for fall getting ready to start, to the faculty, and to the students coming back?
Great. Well, my first message is LCC has a people-first strategy for keeping our LCC community safe. We've got probably the best business resumption plan of any college that I've seen. I just left a meeting of the group that's the steward of that living document. It really is a living document. If you're connected with LCC and you want to read it, just go to our homepage. It's right at the coronavirus website, and you can look at it and see that you're going to be safe. And then my last message is, if you're on the fence about whether you would take college classes in the fall, this is the time to do it, and LCC is a great place to do it. Our faculty are fantastic, and if you're learning face-to-face at where you normally go to college, give us a look, because we've got great things going on.
Yeah, I have to agree. You guys are doing a great job. I actually am a mom of an incoming freshman at LCC.
Oh, good for you.
And I have to say, because I don't know that end of it, so my son's kind of responsible to take care of that. And it's been amazingly easy for him.
Well,
He's been finding it to be a good experience at doing it online and via phone calls. So, well, thank you so much, Dr. Robinson, for joining us. It's a pleasure. This is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered. Have a great day.